Hey guys, Tim Junior here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Trauma Therapy. So, this movie follows, or starts with, a guy talking to his psychiatrist, whose name is Tobin. And interestingly enough, the actor that plays Tobin is the one who wrote the entire script, and I guess is also the director. So yeah. So this Tobin guy calls the Manic Coward, and we see that this little performance is being performed to a live studio audience. And we see that behind the scenes there are more people trying to pick out individuals from the bleachers to get in on this top secret retreat of people he can help. And his philosophy is that if you want to stop, you have to pay. Pay to stop. That's a gimmick I have never heard of before, which is interesting. I've heard of pay to win and all that stuff, but pay to stop. Already, my intrigue was like, okay, that's interesting. So he manages to rope 4 people in that are deep-seated in various troubles, and they must give in all their cell phones. We see this one woman named Beth, who doesn't want to at first, but we also have Danny, who I assumed was going to be like our main protagonist, but we sort of follow these other individuals as well, John and Matt. So those are our 4 people. And the first thing they are told to do is all undress. And of course they're all nervous about it, and Tobin brings up the conception of, like, why do we wear clothes? We choose to because that is what is sort of dictated to us, sort of mentality. There is like this taboo against it sort of formed of like, oh, if you don't wear clothes, So yeah, immediately you're going like, okay, this guy is like going like full in right away. So they proceed to do it, undress and whatnot. And they introduce themselves, and they grab their folders of like who they were before, and he tells them what they're going to need to do to improve in an overall sense. So they're given some new clothes that they can wear, and there's like these like uniformed clothes. And John gives them some drinks so that they can get a little bit have a little bit of a celebration of night 1. Well, but unknown to them, they are being watched at all times. And John gets himself cut, goes back to his room, and Danny goes to him to go right into the sex. Beth is trying to hook up with Matt, but he doesn't want any of that. He's like crying himself all over. And in the morning they're given these pills, and the instructor says like the pills are all sorts of different stuff. And we see that because Matt didn't take these pills, he's like falling behind, and Danny's making sure that he can keep up. So he does eventually take these pills. So Beth and John are talking about what happened the last night, and they're trying to figure out, like, because their memory's still a little hazy about like what happened. And Matt kind of pieces together that Danny's obsession or thing she wants to get rid of is the whole sex thing. Is like she feels the need to do that in order to validate her life, I suppose, is the best way to put that. So in the next step, Tobin pulls out a gun, and Matt is the one with the fear of guns. He used to be a soldier, so he went out and he did his thing, and then he came back with PTSD, so he has that fear. And they're all given guns with the exception of Danny, who is blindfolded and told to move forward. And in the process, she is almost shot by Beth, who got a little upset with Danny for being the way she was. And Tobin shows that the last bullet was a fake out. So, as she goes to sleep, she hears some noises and she's looking around trying to see what's going on, but nothing comes up from it, from an interruption. We cut to stage 3 with an included lie detector, and Beth goes first because Beth is the one who is an impulsive liar. And John starts to question her pretty safely, and then he starts to get in on her about the whole lying thing. And John's thing is he was abandoned, and he mentions gambling, but it wasn't the ultimate, I guess, thing to change. Although it was a part of it, I suppose. So, after her long segment, Matt is told that he needs to go next, and he wants nothing to do with it, so he breaks the device. And Danny and Matt at this point are a little bit figuring out okay, this is getting a little bit too much. But the other two, John and Beth, are starting to be on board with this whole change thing. And we see that the pills from the back are being all mixed up, so it doesn't really even matter. And they bring in a new member because Matt decided he's going to leave. We see that the leader has some leeches on him, and we see that Danny was affected by the pills, so she throws up. And we come to stage 4, where we learn this guy's name, the 4th guy, or the 5th additional guy named Arthur. And the way he talks is to suggest that he might be a sort of plant, or someone who knows a little bit more than the others, but isn't told everything else that is going on. But Matt does eventually return after he ran and started to worry about the others, so he came back. So Johnny decides that he wants to bring over Danny, and the two of them go out to check in on this Arthur, because John's getting a little suspicious. And indeed, we see that Danny overhears him talking with this other guy named Victor, who's the one feeding them the pills, and then Tobin attacks her from behind. And then the other guy, John, is also attacked. And we cut to the final stage where the 4 of them are locked in, or frozen by the drugs or whatever. And Tobin talks about this new drug he's created that creates a whole new powerful hallucination type of scene, where Danny's going over and seeing herself and mocking herself, and the others are also mocking her as well. And it shows them eventually overpowering this supposed drug and then taking out, and I'm going to put that in quotes, taking out Tobin. And it cuts to them kind of going back and forth between their escape and what they're doing next in their lives, which is all of them talking about how their lives were improved by this therapy session. And slowly but surely we see that Tobin is actually still alive, and the person they killed behind the mask was Arthur. So it was all a scheme, after all, to build them up to be these killers. So, pretty interesting side, I guess, surprise there at the end. Uh, Pretty interesting therapy things along the way. Or extreme, or as the movie is known, trauma therapy, to traumatize your people with extreme measures. So there's that. Pretty enjoyable. I think they did an okay job with the characterization and giving the characters at least this like little backstory thing, and then shifting it. So I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. And if you enjoyed my review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out the links in the description. One or head over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye bye.